From Second Opportunity and U-Turn Health, this is the Path Forward Podcast, episode 26. My name is Augie Gillarducci. I'm your host, and this is a good one for me today. This is the 26th episode, so we actually are completing our first year of podcasting. So my guest today, Ruben Gaona, who is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we were just talking a little bit before coming on here, but Ruben and I released at a very similar point in time, both in the earlier part of 2017. So Ruben, welcome, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Augie. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to always come in here and share with the followers, just involve individuals, some success stories and encourage them from when they come home and how to stay motivated and dedicated, but most of all, highly educated, right? So they're able to be successful in their reentry journey.
So you and I are on the same page about that. I say that if this goes a half hour, I want the men and women on the inside who watch this to feel just a little bit better at the end of those 30 minutes, a little bit of hope and inspiration, because we're going to talk about some of the great stuff that you're doing in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'd like to start by, let's get to know you a little bit. Maybe tell us where you were born, where you grew up, if you played sports when you were in school, or what a young Ruben looked like.
Oh, wow. Young Ruben, and I'll get a little bit vulnerable here just to share some content. I'm originally from Paso, Texas. I grew up in one of the worst neighborhoods at that time, what is considered Segundo Barrio. Got raised by my mom. I'm the middle of 5 child. My dad got incarcerated to 20 years in prison when I was 8 years old. So at a young age, I had to learn how to hustle. So my mentality was always, how can I find ways to help my mom sustain us? My older brother was mentally handicapped. So my mom really didn't know much. She had 5 kids by the age of 18. Luckily, she had a lot of support by my godmother that lived right across from us at the apartment that we used to live. But as a young boy, I struggle. I struggle a lot with a lot of violence that I got to see, my dad display against my mom. Never against us, but I was also raped, molested at a young age, from the age of 8 to 12. I endure a lot of stuff that no child should ever have to endure. I was out in the streets selling burritos, newspaper by the age of 11, just to make any money collecting cans. We were on food stamps, welfare. So anything that would help us be able to put food on the table. And I was also a stubborn kid. I didn't like to eat certain types of food. So often when my mom would cook the food that she would cook and I didn't like it, I would say, I'm not going to eat this. And she was like, well, you're not eating. So I had to fend for myself and go find something that I would eat. I became Doritos and hot sauce. And Louisiana bottle of hot sauce and a lemon became real famous to me. Oftentimes, that was the only meal I would eat a day. Go buy me a bag of Doritos, a little small ball of hot sauce, and man, my mouth got watery just thinking about that. But eventually, by the age of 15, my mom decided to say, you know what, my kids, there's not going to be no life for them here in El Paso. Me and my brother were already heading the wrong direction. So she came up to Chicago, saw Chicago, and it was too big. So she decided to take the bus a little bit north, and we landed in Milwaukee. I still remember that was around May of 1996. And then by June of 1996, she sent for all of her kids, and we all moved up to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was a shocker for me. Milwaukee is real segregated, something that I was not used, especially in high school. African American people stay in one corner, Hispanics in one corner, Caucasians in one corner, Asians in one corner, kind of like the federal system. Everyone has their own little clique. But I was not used to all that. But I was able to graduate in high school in 2000. But at the same time, when I was graduating, I had a daughter on the way already. So me not wanting to have my daughter go and endure what I went through, I decided to enlist in the United States Navy. I said, you know what? I don't want my kids to ever suffer like I suffer, or or anything. I really didn't have a lot of traits, uh, skills. So I was like, you know what? Let me apply for the Navy. My godmother's sons were in the Navy. So I saw that as my way out because I saw them grow as I was growing up. That's something that got them out of the ghetto, out of the hood, what you call. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a way for me to get out of and create a life for myself. So I enlisted in the United States Navy on April 4th of 2001. I thought it was, I remember my mom being scared and said, no, don't go. What if war happens? And I remember making fun of her and said, war's not going to happen. You don't worry. I shipped on board my first United States naval ship in July 28th. By August 4th, we are getting ready to leave what is called a 6-month Westpac in San Diego, California. So I'm like, okay, we're leaving now. I was like, I just got here. I didn't think I was going to be deployed. I'm getting deployed now. And then obviously 9/11 happened on 2001, if you remember. So that was a whole shocker for us, you know. But I enjoyed my naval career. I was able to do three deployments. Enjoyed it, loved it. I mean, the Navy was my career. One thing that happened while I was in the Navy in late of 2003, I ended having abdominal surgery. There was some medical complications that I was enduring that happened. And that same medical complications from that surgery started leading to me having a lot of back problems, especially with that excessive work that I was doing in the Navy. So one thing, medical issue led to another. When eventually, on the fall of 2007, when I was getting ready to re-enlist after serving 6.5 years, I was told that I couldn't re-enlist because I was not fit for sea duty no more. So
Nice.
I'm like, well, what does that mean? That means, well, your time is over. You know, you finish your term and that's it. Until this day, I regret the fact that I did not know how to save money. I grew up real poor, so didn't know how to save no money. So when I got told that I was getting released and I was going to get a severance pay of like $7,345 or something like that, it was no more than $8,000. I I had 5 kids at that time. I was married. I'm a second marriage. I had just had a baby, and I was like, how am I going to sustain my family? I don't want my kids to go through what I went through. I had a rent, mortgage to pay. I had no money in the bank. So Ruben got involved in what he knew what to do best, and that was hustling. So started selling drugs, started getting involved in criminal activity. All did that for about 3 years. Until in the blink of an eye, I ended up getting federally indicted and got sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for my first offense ever.
That took you up until you released in, you said March of 17?
Yep, that took me until March of 1st of 2017. I got arrested. I still remember I got arrested. It's funny how I ended up coming out because I got indicted on March 16 of 2010, and then I came out March 1st of 2017. I ended up programming. I did residential drug abuse program that got a year off. I ended up getting 10 months of good time for good behavior. And then I ended up getting 10 months of a halfway house. So it knocked out close to about 3 years, which was a blessing to me.
Now it gets exciting when you start talking about what you've done with your life since you're released. You're staying in Milwaukee, and as I recall, you went to, did you go to work for some sort of an agency or
Yeah. You know, and I want to share this highlight, and I often share this every time I speak to individuals, especially those who are about to come home, right? Because I came home with a good resume. I had 10 years on my belt prior to getting arrested, 3 years as the Department of Defense supervisor, 6.5 years in the Navy. So when I came home, I came with the mentality that I just wanted to help individuals understand that their mistakes did not define who they were, but what we did afterwards. So for my last 2 years while I was incarcerated, I devoted myself on helping individuals how to write resumes, letters of support, letters of explanation, so they could better do job interviews. So I came in with a mentality that, you know what, I want to hit the ground running and I just want to be a case manager. And I directly aim at being a case manager because I remember being in the BOP and my case manager really didn't do nothing for me. I had a bad case manager and never helped, never assisted me in anything. So I'm like, you know what? I need to change the narrative and show people that this is not the definition of being a case manager. But to my surprise, and I always share this with people, you will encounter barriers as soon as you come out. I remember my first week in the federal halfway house, I was told, "What are you going to do for employment?" So I quickly responded, "I want to be a case manager. I want to find a job where I could help people that are coming out of prison to be able to reintegrate back to society." And about three-fourths of the halfway house staff and the probation and parole officer laughed at me and said, "That's not going to happen, Ruben. Your life and career are over. You no longer work for the Department of Defense. What you need to do is you need to go get a job, settle for a bare minimum paying job, and that's, I was like, that's all you need to do. Focus on getting a regular, any kind of job." And to reality, the fact was, my response was like, well, first of all, a regular job is not going to sustain my family. I came home with 5 kids already. They're all teenagers, grown. I have a mortgage to pay for. I have a wife still. I was like, no. I was like, I need something that could sustain my family. I need a sustainable employment. I was like, and none of you, with all due respect, have the resume that I have. I was like, give me 45 days so I could get a job as a case manager. And they pushed back and said, you got 30 days. We'll see you in team. And if you don't have a job in 30 days, you're liable to go back to prison or something, you're in violation. But I grinded a hustle the first 2 weeks as soon as I got here. I had an employment coordinator in the halfway house who believed in me real big. And she said, "Ruben, whatever you need from me." I said, "I need Paso. I need to be able to go and fill out applications. When you live, can you leave the computer lab open so I could continue to put an application online? And in return, I'm willing to help anybody who's in the halfway house do their resumes." I kind of became like a little mentor in the computer lab. And she's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And I landed a job as a case manager with FSET, with the Food Share Training Program here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And even getting that job was a little hurdle. I struggled at first because the recruiter told me that there was no position available after the operational director from the company told me that they were looking for male case managers at all that had lived life experiences, with the justice system to be case managers in that experience. So she believed in me. But the recruiter from the tip agency told me there's a year waiting list for that position. So I was like, okay, but I could give you a janitorial job for $850. And I said, my daughter makes $950 at Taco Bell. You want to pay me $850? That's not going to help me take care of my family. Thanks, but no thanks. I'll keep you all in mind. And I turned that job opportunity. I remember getting in my car and I cried. I literally cried and broke down, and remember calling my wife and telling her, like, dude, this is hard. My wife said, you know what? Go say thanks to the operational director for the opportunity, and let's keep pushing forward. The next day when I went and said thanks to the operational director, she asked what happened. And I said, I don't even know why you would send me to this job interview, because they told me there's a year waiting list. And she's like, they told you what? She's like, hold on. So she called the executive director from the company, from the nonprofit, from the EFIT program. And they're like, oh, no. So they had me apply directly through the company, where I ended up getting hired directly through the company. And within 30 days, I was working as a case manager for the Food Share Training Program here in Milwaukee. So did that for about a year. It was awesome. But I realized one thing, and that's when it really hit home here in Milwaukee, that Black and brown people were the most affected by the justice system. My caseload was about 95% of people of color, and about 80% of us had a criminal conviction, and we were struggling. And we weren't really doing much for them, besides the fact that once they found a job, we told them goodbye, take care, we'll follow them for 2 weeks, track them, and that's it. So I said, we need to do a better job. We need to create a better system. And the state of Wisconsin opened a position with Department of Workforce Development. So I applied for the state of Wisconsin. I think people who have felonies don't believe that they could work for the state again, but that's not true. That's a myth. You were able to get a state job as long as your background doesn't interfere with the position you're applying. Obviously, I was charged with a drug conviction, so me being a employment training specialist has nothing to do with me selling drugs. So, with Wisconsin being a so-called ban-the-box state, I went through the background. They passed me. I interviewed, and I ended up getting hired. 1 year after being released from federal prison, I had a state job working for the Department of Workforce Development.
So you raised some great points there, and thanks for bringing that up, that you can get a state government job even with a conviction, right? Depending on the
Yep.
nature of conviction, type of job,
Yep.
and what have you. And the other thing I want to ask you is, did you have any previous experience in the workforce development field?
I had experience as an HR, so I worked as a personnel specialist when I was in the military, but
Okay.
never not directly into workforce, which is something. Those are soft skills. Those soft skills. I always tell people, a job you can learn if you apply yourself. Those are soft skills that you're able to learn, and people are able to teach you, and you self teach yourself as you're going. I came out not even knowing how to navigate a computer, but I would
Right.
go home and teach myself how to navigate, how to use the mouse again, how to use certain systems, Excel. I would watch YouTube videos just to better prepare myself, and that really I self-taught myself how to use all that stuff. So, once I got hired by the state, now I was teaching people how to do the same things I was doing, how to be successful. And I started speaking more into reentry into the workforce. Uh, I remember that this is early 2018. So we were running for president. There was a candidate that there was about to be a run for presidential election again. And I started speaking heavily about we need to speak more about reentry into the workforce. But one of those populations is justice involved individuals that is not often talked about. So the DNC was going to come to Milwaukee. So I made it a priority to speak up and that they needed to have a panel discussion about this. And they accepted the idea. I spoke on it, and that opened doors for me to start speaking more into reentry into the workforce and how I landed my state job and within 2 years being out of federal prison and everything. But at the same time, the state did not like that. The state did not like the fact that I was speaking a lot about it. So they tried putting a restriction and telling me to dictate where I can and could talk, could not talk. So I remember when I asked my supervisor, can I go and speak at this panel discussion? And he said, no, because our political views don't align with that organization. And I said, well, what does politics got to do with helping people? And he's like, Ruben, you work for the state. That's how it goes. I said, well, no, that's not how it goes because I sacrificed my values once and they landed me in prison for 10 years. And I told myself that I would never allow anyone to tell me I can't do something. So here's my 45-day notice. And he said, what are you going to do? I had just had a baby as well. He's like, Ruben, you have benefits. You just had a baby. Are you sure you want to do this? I said, I'll figure it out. I was like, one thing I know is we teach transferable skills when it comes to the workforce. And anybody who's been convicted of a felony or anything, we have those transferable skills. So I knew that I had some kind of skills. I had those customer service skills, those sales skills. So how do I transfer those, what I was doing in the street, to doing it the right way? So I quit my state job, started my entrepreneurial journey in 2019. In October of 2019, I met my business partner from my for-profit where we developed a fair chance employment platform. The fair chance employment platform is called The Way Out Helps. And we scaled it up in 2020. We pitched it to our American family and they loved the idea. Generally loved the idea. And they helped us. We continued to push forward. That eventually by 2022, me and my partner was one of the first 50 ever Latino founders to get funded by Google. So, and we also secured venture capital funding. But that also led us not only one of the things I learned through that is it was not just about finding employment for people. It was actually also about we needed to provide the support services for these individuals. We needed to provide long-term support services, not short-term. We can't just get someone a job and forget all about them. We need to be there and guide them. And instead of telling people what to do, let's ask them, what is their way out? What do you need? One of the things that we are able to understand when we get incarcerated, the number one thing that gets taken from us is our voice. Because once they put those handcuffs, they tell us you got the right to remain silent. And often we don't get our voice again because we get incarcerated and we don't come out on bond. Like I wasn't able to come out on bond or nothing. So from there, moving on forward, I was careful of what I said and who I said stuff to. So it's like one of the things with My Way Out, which we created the nonprofit in 2022 was, let's empower them. Let's give people the voice back. And let's not tell people that are coming out of prison or someone who's been just as involved what to do, but rather let's ask them, what is your way out? What do you need? How can we best help you? Working in workforce made me open my eyes of how a lot of organizations, reentry nonprofit organizations, have forgotten why we started the nonprofit. It's for the people, to help individuals. At least my vision of that, that's what it was. So I was like, how do I best help these people? Go ahead, Augie.
I was just going to say I picked up from you when I was going through one of your websites this morning, and I say this often when I'm inside a facility, which is all the time. I tell them that, for me, I think the number one rule of reentry is that we have to be willing to ask for help. And
Yes.
so, and I know that you've got that in your website as well, but it's such an important component that if we get out thinking we have all the answers, or we don't want to ask for help or for some guidance in some ways because we'd be ashamed, or, we just have to humble ourselves and ask for help. And the approach that you're using when you were talking about, we're asking people, what do you need? There's a misconception in work, and you're in workforce, and there's a misconception by some segments of society that think that once somebody releases from incarceration, if we get them a job, they'll be fine. And that's just not true. That a job employment is certainly an important component, but it is not the end of it. There's so many other things that we need to go through in order to really fit back and get back into society the way that we want to. Rebuilding relationships. Many people released from incarceration, they've got a substance misuse disorder, and just because they didn't use for 10 years while they were locked up, it doesn't mean that the issue has been resolved. It just means that they didn't have access. So, I would say that on the inside, it's important to start to do what you said. If somebody's going to ask you, what can we do to help you, to know what your list looks like? I need help with this or with this or with the other. So I would like to ask you to talk specifically about your organization and the great things that you're doing and some of the awards that you've received for the work that you're doing, so that people can see that this is kind of a standard that I'd like to find an organization. I'm not releasing in Milwaukee. I'm in Portland, Oregon, or whatever it might be. How do I find a place that will offer these types of supports that Ruben's talking about, that he's doing at his facility?
Yeah, most definitely. So the name of my nonprofit is called My Way Out. Our mission is to empower and enrich the lives of justice impacted people and their families. Got founded in the fall of 2021. We launched in 2022. We started with our first program called Reaching In, Helping Out. And that was us reaching into people who were incarcerated here in the state of Wisconsin, all over their institutions, and finding out, like, why do we have to wait for someone to come out to be able to provide the support services? Why can we provide the support services ahead of time? Because often they're not getting that. So we partner with a newsletter that was in the institutions right here in DLC in Wisconsin that introduced us to individuals. From that communication through support links, we were able to provide people guidance. We would ask them, what is your way out? What do you need help with? And they would let us know whether it was housing, transportation, clothing, sometimes winter jackets. People are coming out with nothing, coming out homeless, housing, mental health, employment. So we started providing resources where to look at. Even on our website with thewayOutHelps.org, we incorporated a tab on the bottom where you're able to, if you're not here in Wisconsin and you need additional help, you're able to click on that tab and it'll take you to and find help, well, you're able to type in your zip code, and it'll give you whatever resources are closest to you. And that's what, we started leveraging that. Like, there's systems out here that are well known that people didn't even know existed that will tell you where resources are close to you. I do want to touch on the aspect, I've gotten a lot of awards, Augie, ever since 2022. I was nominated 2022 Most Inspirational Latino here in Wisconsin. I was 2021 Veteran Social Entrepreneur of the Year. I was the 2022 Michael Boyce Outstanding Entrepreneur Award from the University of Notre Dame. I was the 2023 Hispanic Professional Greater Milwaukee Espiritu Award. One of the first ever Latino founders, 40 Latino founders to get funded by Google. And the list carries on, honestly, I think, but I do want to touch on something that you mentioned is the word help. Am I right? I think often, like people like us, people of color, we were raised with a stigma that we don't ever ask for nothing. Because once you ask for something, someone's going to want something else in return. And just like you, often when I'm speaking to other justice involved individuals or to entrepreneurs, people taking schools for entrepreneurial, I went and spoke at the University of Notre Dame, at the University of Florida. And one question I always get asked is, how you manage to be so successful in such a short period of time? And I always reply back, honestly, by asking for help. I learned quickly when I came out that a lot more people would tell you yes than they would tell you no. So I'm not afraid to ask for help. And if often if I don't know something, I surround myself with people that know that stuff, that know those things. People, this year, I'll share with you earlier that we'll finish our third year raising close to 400,000 K in grants. I didn't know nothing about being an ED, an executive director for a nonprofit. I didn't even know nothing about the nonprofit world besides the fact where I worked at, but I asked for help. A lot of my closest friends are EDs, and they mentored me, and I asked them for advice, and they guided me. Whenever I needed help with anything, even with mental health, I asked for help, and I think people need to understand that it's okay to ask for help. Nowadays, more people will help you like they won't. You just got to ask.
Yeah, I mean, that's great stuff from the standpoint that if I'm on the inside, and the resources aren't getting to me, the knowledge isn't getting to me, which, we do the Second Opportunity Program, which is through tablets and some in-person stuff, but it's all about making people aware of what the resources are. I didn't know about them when I walked out the door. I didn't know that all these funded programs to get into welding or CDL or all these other trades that pays a good wage with benefits. I didn't know they were out there. I didn't know they were fully funded. So I'm not reaching in my pocket for anything. And so, but if we don't ask, we're not going to know what's there. I think that this is certainly a strong message that we both seem to agree upon, that we want people on the inside to know that there is help out there. And it's amazing. For example, you can go to the Department of Labor and they have not just resources to help you do your resume and get job interviews and mock job interviews and set you up with interviews, but they also have access to other resources having nothing to do with that. But when you're sitting in front of the person at the American Job Center, if you don't say, hey, I need help with this, like transportation, for example, you brought that up, right? If you don't say this is something I need, they're not going to know what they can address for you to provide that sort of a benefit, like transportation, so that you can go to work or get to an interview.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I push heavily for paid training here in 2024, that was one of my advocacy, is that we need to provide people paid training, because often you can't make someone coming out of incarceration have a choice of go become an apprentice or pre-apprentice for free, or go get a job, because often our priority is to get a job. Sure. And even though we're not seeing that big picture, I was like, well, why not pay them? So we did a pilot program with one of our organizations over here in Wisconsin, and it was a 10-week program, construction. The first 4 weeks you started at $15 paid training. The next 2 weeks, that 6 weeks, you went up to $18. Then the next last 8 weeks, you were at $20. And then the last 2 weeks, depending where you were placed, you're making anywhere from $20 to $25 an hour already. And those are careers now. I tell people often those jobs in the trades, those are not jobs. Those are careers. Those are something that you're able to skill up. My brother came home 1 year after I did for the federal system, and I helped him get a job as an electrician because he was working as an electrician in the feds. And we were able to convert some of his hours that he did while he was in the federal system into the hours out here. He's making $55 an hour right now. He's getting ready to take his journeyman's test right here in the next 2 weeks. If he passes that with a union, he'll be at $85, $90 an hour. Those are careers. Those are life-changing careers.
Yep.
Welding starts at anywhere from 20-25. Construction, HVAC, all those stuff. One thing that we're doing with My Way Out now is here in Wisconsin, we're in negotiations to start introducing virtual reality in the trades. Why wait? If we talk so much about security levels and how I cannot take a welding shop inside medium or high because you could find ways to make shanks and all that. Well, let's bring it via virtual reality. And the studies are showing now that people retain more via virtual reality that on-hands job training. So we introduced our Building the Path to Success here in the Milwaukee County Community Reintegration Center. And we graduated last week, Tuesday, was our 5th cohort that we graduated.
That's great. We have some partners now that are virtual reality training. And one, Vehicles for Change, they have people certified as auto technicians.
Yep.
And they can do it right on the inside, and they get the gloves and the Oculus, and they learn this stuff. And they then have agreements. The Vehicles for Change has agreements with like Costco and Sam's Club and Walmart and Jiffy Lube that people can bring those certificates and say, I've gone through this training, and they can get hired into that job. That, like walking out the prison door, they can turn that into something. Yeah. And, so I think that it's going to be easier because, as you say, the idea of we need to bring all these tools in order to have people working on cars. Well, you don't need to bring those tools in. You don't need to bring a vehicle in. You don't need to have oil spill on the floor. You can actually have this stuff taught on a virtual basis, and it's recognized when they leave out of there. There's another one that we're working with that they teach HVAC on a virtual basis. So that's really great stuff. So we're running up a little bit on time here. But I'm really enjoying the conversation and the work that you do. But I'm going to ask you to just take a couple of minutes and just look in the camera and talk to the men and women on the inside. Of course, we hope their families are following this on the outside and learning about all these things that are available out there. But just take a few minutes and talk to the men and women on the inside and maybe give them your message toward some inspiration or some hope about what can be in the future.
Yeah, most definitely. I'll start off with this. 5 years into my bid, I wrote a quote. I can't does not exist. It is an excuse we tell ourselves to not reach our true potential. Remember, every single one of you, that you can accomplish anything you set your mind into. You will have a lot of narratives that will tell you can't do something, but that is not true. It may be something that they couldn't do, but it does not mean that you can't do it. If you set yourself with realistic goals, you're able to accomplish anything. I'm about to graduate now with my bachelor's. I'm about to go into my MBA. Everything I've dreamt of doing coming home, I've been able to accomplish. And yeah, it was not easy. It was not impossible. One of the things I always tell my participants is reentry is not easy. It really ain't. And that's 100% true. But it's also non-doable. Because we have a lot of successful people that are doing amazing things after incarceration. Often I challenge a lot of CEOs who've been incarcerated that I know to be more open about it and to speak up about their journey, because don't allow the stigma that society has put, because you caught a felony. You're not a felon. You caught a felony. That doesn't label you who you are, who you truly are. It's what you do afterwards that matters. And you can only do something afterwards if you're providing an opportunity. but that opportunity may not come sometimes real quick, and it might take you to go get it and look for it. But do not give up, man. Stay motivated, stay dedicated. One of the things I've learned real quickly was to continue to dream, plan, and execute. Don't stop dreaming. Write down before you come home your top 3 things you want to do. A little list that I created, and I have all my participants that to create that. It's kind of like, I call it a personalized reentry plan. Set yourself with a 30-day goal, 60-day goal, and 90-day goal, and a 6-month goal. On that 30-day goal, write down 3 things you want to accomplish when you come home. 2 of those 2 things you should be able to accomplish within 30 days. Your third one should roll into your 60 days. And then you do the same thing on your 60 days. You set up 3 other things. One's rolling over. You add another one that you can accomplish in 60 days, and another one that's going to roll into your 90 days. And you do all that ladder all the way down to you hit 6 months, 1 year. And you'll find yourself just like you're building a house, building it brick by brick by brick by brick. And eventually you're going to find yourself telling people, thank you for helping me do this. But in reality, it was always you. You all have the potential to do it. You just needed the resources. And go out, look for the resources. There are resources, no matter what state, what county, what city you're going to be released to. I'll take that back, because there are some that are real complicated because there is no resources, but there'll be some. Try to find your way to see what you're able to do, who you can do. Try to see who you can connect that has been just as involved, that is walking the same journey or has walked the same journey with you. One of the things that, like, at my way out, all my employees are credible messengers. I'm a big believer that you can't tell someone how to change if they've never been through it. So all the people I hire, they're all credible messengers. And when you do look for a job when you come home, don't settle for something that you're not happy. You ask, the number one mistake that people make is when you ask them what kind of job they want, they quickly say any type of job. No, because in reality, cleaning a toilet looks way different at $7.25 an hour than it does at $30 or $25 as a plumber. For $25 to $30, you're going to wake up and go in there and be all happy and know that you have a set career. So know what you want to do. Prepare yourself while you're in there. I prepared myself 2 years coming out, like knowing what I wanted to do, what I wanted to do, and didn't allow no one to deter me from that. I had a lot of people say I wasn't going to be able to do it, but here we are now. The same people that told me, including the probation and parole for the federal system, now they're our partners. Now we collaborate together. Now they send all their people from their halfway house to our program, but yet they say I wasn't going to be able to do it. So you're able to show people, you know what? I'm going to show you I could do it, because you could do anything you want to. So continue to dream, plan, and execute, and believe in yourself. That's the number one rule. Always bet on yourself, because no one else is going to bet on you but yourself. So bet on yourself.
Ruben, this was great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for sharing the wisdom that you've gained, not only from the inside, but with what you've done to build a for-profit organization and a nonprofit organization. And the common thread is you're helping people that have been, that are just as involved along the path. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Those of you out there that have watched this or listened to this, this is the Path Forward podcast. I'm your host, Augie Ghilarducci, and we hope you'll tune in for our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Augie.